Hi everybody, welcome back to the Magic Garden. Actually today we are once again in the Anubis studios because the weather outside is, well, disrespectful. Here in Eastern Oregon we've got a lot of flooding and I got to apologize. I didn't record my video previously, but I've come down with a horrible cold and just got my voice back. Still not all that great, but it kind of brings me to a really good point though. So, I'm always really worried about what I look like. I had a bad tooth up front from some bad dental work, and I'm not as young as I used to be, and getting in front of this camera is, as I've said before, it really isn't all that easy. But it brings me to a really damn good point. Not every day do we feel like looking like a supermodel. And it's not every day that you get to look like a supermodel when you're in your garden. The truth is there's no room for vanity here. You get to your garden, it's a dirty, kind of grungy place. You're constantly getting muddy. You got to dig with your hands, so your fingernails are never great. This is normal, folks. There is absolutely no reason why you should ever feel as if, like, you need to be anything more than the person sitting watching this right now in order to be in a garden or feel like you deserve one. I know most of the time I get out to my garden and I don't have any makeup on, and I don't need any makeup on, because I'm going to come in probably wet and stinky, and there's just no room for vanity. Your garden is your sacred space. And if you're kind of looking at your yard and it's your first year growing and you really don't see that, we're going to develop that over the next year. I think even after that, even within your second year, you're going to find that the magic within that is absolutely going to grow. The reason I bring this up is because, man, my self-esteem gets shot sometimes, and it gets really hard to, like, come up with the energy to put makeup on, get in front of this camera, talk about things that really matter to me. But at the end of the day, I don't need to dress up for you or YouTube or anything else. I'm literally getting in front of this camera because it makes me feel good to know that I had to suffer some things and I've learned some things, but the value in my sacred space, in the sacred space, not just in the Magic Garden, but also right here, dude, it's absolutely amazing how much you grow when you learn to just accept yourself for who you are. And yeah, I do want to start this particular episode off with, let's talk about that, It was really hard for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I can do this, right? I could. There's a lot of things I learned that I couldn't do. But it was the courage of just stepping up and getting in front of, this camera, getting out in my garden and just doing it, putting boards together, working with pallets, all these things that I've done, man, took a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to, just step up and do something for you. But I'll tell you, your garden just doesn't produce amazing food. Your garden produces an amazing person, and that person doesn't have to be a supermodel. You don't have to have a certain personality. You don't have to act a certain way. You don't have to worry about what your YouTube subscribers think of you. Because at the end of the day, you've already suffered enough to figure out that you mean something to yourself. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be following me. As I've said, man, I get lost in this world. But the one thing that I've learned the most in being lost is finding myself has given me courage, acceptance, understanding, and even more so the need to not have to be absolutely gorgeous, to step in front of this camera, get out there and have the balls to build my garden. I don't need approval from the world. Honestly, what I really just needed was me to pull my head out of my ass and see how wonderful life is. Once I was able to do that, which, believe me, it took a year or more. It's not like I just snapped and decided all of a sudden I was going to be freaking awesome. No, the truth is, man, I cried my ass off. I bloodied my hands. I stained my hands. Gloves are important. We'll talk about that later. I got out there and I did the work. And I'm telling you that if you just pick yourself up, the person you are, look at me, I'm in sweats, my hair's up, I'm only wearing makeup because I have to. The truth is what really difference does any of this make? It doesn't. What really matters is your desire to do something good for yourself, do something good for your family, grow your own food. Whether you got money, it don't matter, because I'm going to show you in the long scheme of things how money isn't going to affect your ability to find yourself, to believe in yourself, to grow your own food, to make a garden of your own sanctuary. You know, I'm really, really lucky that I have the Anubis Studios to film this in. You know, I'm grateful that I have this room. I'm grateful for my garden, and I'm grateful that you're here with me today. Man, I really hope that you guys have enjoyed, you know, kind of watching me over the last couple of videos, because the truth is the more I feel like I get all of this out, the more I teach somebody, the more I learn, and the more I fail, the more I feel like I'm justified in every tear I've ever cried. Every tear I've ever cried. Because I know I'm doing something that I have never thought I could do. And that's sit here in front of this camera, just as me, and not worry about my vanity. Not worry about what I look like in that garden. Damn sure not what anybody out there really thinks of me personally. Oh, I got a messed up tooth, can't be on YouTube. No, dude, it ain't like that. What it's really like is it's really hard to get out there and do those things that you really want to do. But I'm going to show you along the way that your courage, your compassion, your empathy for others, your broken heart, man, all these things can be healed once you step past your own vanity and self-esteem and give yourself a shot. All you have to do is believe in yourself. Do the next right thing. Get your hands dirty. Don't worry about what you look like. So, you know that I'm not trying to sit up here and preach. What I am trying to do is give you the courage that I didn't have, and try to tell you that you can grow your own food. You can find yourself in your own creation. You can do anything you want to do. And there ain't a single person out there or anything else that is going to stop you once you believe in yourself. So with that stated, guys, we're going to get into our episode today. Our episode, we're going to be talking about what we're going to grow in our 2012, 2020, whatever the hell year this is. God, years fly by so fast, you know, and I'm learning how to slow that down and take appreciation for every day that I have left on this earth. And with that time I have left, I'm going to make one hell of a beautiful garden. But before I can get there, I need to find out what it is that I can grow here in Eastern Oregon. So in my first year of growing my garden, I grew every variety on the planet. It was my third biggest mistake, and one that I'd like to address in this particular video. I didn't know that there was a difference between a cold weather sowing period and a warm weather growth period. And I had no idea that certain things would or would not grow here. I just grew everything. So I did go out and buy like a ton of books. I went and I did all kinds of research, went online, USDA hardiness, zone map. You know what was great about that is it was capable of telling me what would grow best here, but it didn't tell me when. And I also didn't take into consideration that, you know, most of the research that I did, these folks don't live in Eastern Oregon in high desert. I studied my entire butt off with Jess at Roots and Refuge. If you have a chance, that woman will change your life in 2 episodes. The next thing you'll know, you'll be sitting for a week with popcorn, just binge watching. She is breathtaking in ways that I can't explain to you. Your experience may be different, but Jess, you've changed my life, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you've given to us, and the ability for me to do this today comes from courage that you helped give me. So thank you, and to your lovely family, God, thank you guys so much for just being there and giving me the courage. And so really what I'm doing is I'm passing forward those things that I've learned from you. So thank you. Anyway, with that stated, Jess is actually she's over on the other side of the United States, but the funny thing is that she grows really close to zone 7A and 7B. What that stated is I can kind of go based upon some of her direction, but here in Eastern Oregon, man, it's high desert. We hardly have any trees where I live. There's no shade whatsoever. It can be 90 degrees on a good day, 110 on a bad. And you never know, because Mother Nature and her whole habit hasn't really decided which side of the fence to fall on. And in my time here in Eastern Oregon, I realized that there are a lot of things that you can grow, but you just have to know when to grow them. So in my first year, like I said, I grew damn near every variety of vegetable you can ever imagine, but I couldn't figure out why it was that like things like green beans and peas that I had planted like in December weren't growing as well outside as they did indoors. I actually started indoors and went to raised boxes. And the difference between a raised box, I guess I should state, and just growing in the ground is a few things. Water is one of them. Calcium is another. There's a lot of variables in there. But we're going to get into that part in a whole another episode, because I think that there's a misconception that you can't grow the same in a box as you can in the ground. You can. That is just a whole nother subject. In this instance, what I found out was there are some vegetables out there, and fruits too, that can grow so well in colder weather that they can even withstand the wintertime. I'm not even joking. With or without a greenhouse, they can actually be outside. But then there are some things like in early spring, they're before the real heavy heat hits, that's going to grow very well for me. What I didn't know is, there are some vegetables, like I said, peas and green beans that I planted, and they wound up getting stunted all summer long. And then come fall, they just really started producing. That is because they are a cold weather kind of produce. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the difference between cold weather sowing, that process, and warm weather growing, because some plants grow and will germinate a hell of a lot better in the summertime than they will the wintertime. Knowing the difference between the two will keep you from my absolute third mistake, and that's planting every damn thing. So today, let's find out exactly what we can grow and what we're going to start growing here real soon, okay? So before we get into this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding that little bell. We're manifesting magic on a huge level here, and we just want to share the happiness, the growth, the knowledge, and we just want to spread the word about how us dysfunctional, lost individuals with no self-esteem and what we feel like is no skill, at the end of the day, we can find each other, and we can network with each other, and we can prove the entire world wrong. There is nothing you can't do. There is no kind of creation that you can't manifest, that you can't do with your hands once you believe in yourself. And we're going to do that over the next year. You and me together. We're going to build a garden within ourselves and in our yard. All right, so let's get to it. Scientifically speaking, frost occurs when the temperature outside dips below the 35-degree Fahrenheit mark. After that, all the condensation, the moisture in the air, and any other water outside begins to form ice crystals which attach to the little leaves outside. Our cold weather plants, although they really love the cooler temperature, cannot handle the temperature below the degree of 35 degrees. Well, there are some plants that absolutely can, much like a root vegetable that's planted in the ground, and their vegetation is above ground. Well, their vegetation might not do so well, but the root inside, protected by the dirt, can withstand even so much as snow. Well, the majority of our cool weather plants, they really like to thrive between 40 and 55 degrees. They can handle a lot more, but that's why we plant them now. We give them 6 to 8 weeks so that when the temperature outside does get above the 35-degree mark, preferably 40, that is the perfect time to put them in the ground, and they'll have plenty of time to grow before the temperature gets too warm for them. And during that time, we will be preparing for our warm weather vegetables. And they are a little bit different. They love the total sunlight. They love lots of daylight. They like more water, that kind of thing. And so we're going to be planting those a little bit later on. But they perform more like a 55 to 75 degree temperature. So this is where I learned a lesson. Remember I told you that my peas and beans weren't really growing during the summertime? Well, what I found out was that these particular plants do not harvest. They stop harvesting and stop producing after 80 degrees. They absolutely shut down and try to reserve their energy for cooler temperatures, but then they thrive a lot better then. That explains totally so many vegetables that I had from last year, but we'll get into that later. How do you really know, when you're picking out seeds and that kind of thing? And we're really going to go into that subject on the next video, but I'm also going to teach you in that video how to read the back of your seed packet or any instruction manual that may come with your seeds. It will always tell you what temperature they thrive best in. So even if you're not too sure if it's a root, if it's a cooler, warmer weather, the back of your seed packet will absolutely tell you, and we're going to learn that in our very next lesson. But for right now, now that we know the difference between our cool weather and our warm weather, let's go find out what we're going to sow. Alright folks, so let's get down to some nitty gritty. There is a really big difference between what you can grow in the winter and what you can grow in the summer. Some things are just not meant to grow just because you think they should. They will do really well in your house when you sow them. I mean, you can do summer vegetables all year long in your house because you maintain a pretty respectable level of climate in your house. The weather where you are really does kind of determine what kind of vegetables that you can grow. And I have this list of what they say here in 7A that we can grow right now, that we can start sowing, that we can do in early spring. Let me read this to you. We can do lettuce, peas, green onions, turnips, cabbage, leeks, most leafy greens. Beets, Chinese varieties, which are awesome, by the way. We'll get into that in another episode. I got like 9. Tot soy being the first of which. Awesome. Anyway, kale, cauliflower, like scallions, carrots, radishes, a lot of root vegetables, like anything that can grow under the ground. These things can actually grow not just in your early cooler months, like early spring, first part of winter, but they can actually in some cases grow all year long. It just depends on the climate in which you have them in. So you can grow broccoli and kale. Well, let me tell you something about this list. I got this actually offline. That's really great, but the truth of the matter is they are right about the root vegetables. Anything under the ground is going to grow well, but what's not like on this list is things like green beans. Green beans aren't going to grow so well. Tomatoes do really well, but I think you have to start them about the same time as you start the rest of these things, despite the fact that they're a summer growing vegetable. And here's why. In my climate, where it's really, really hot and there's not a lot of moisture in the air, these things require more water and more time than you think. They take a lot of time to kind of grow. So you can actually do a whole winter, well, I guess spring. I mean, you plant them in early winter or late winter, and then into early spring, you can actually do your tomatoes and have different sections of tomatoes, so you don't have to harvest all at one time. Let me tell you what online says that you should be able to grow in the summer, and it's not as much as you think. It says corn, melons, cucumber, onion, pumpkin, and beans. It all depends on where you are. I mean, when I lived in Portland, I could have grown all these things all year round. And here's why. We have the moisture, we have the temperature, and we can regulate our own soil. In this case, however, it's too hot. I have to water like twice a day, and then on occasion, it's really up to the amount of sun, which is why I got some of the trellises that are outside. So I think what we're going to start with this time around is a few of their suggestions. We're definitely going with peas. I think I'm definitely going to be planting some of my peppers. I really think my beans and a few of the things. I love some of the root ideas though, because you can plant roots really at any time. When it comes to like spinach is a little more technical than I thought it was, to be quite frankly honest. Spinach really loves colder weather, so I'm going to plant a ton of that. I'm not just going to plant it now, but I think I'm going to plant it at the end of the year. And then the same thing with my tap choy, which we'll get into that variety. It's a Chinese variety, and the funny thing about it is it has like twice the vitamin content as our normal broccoli here in the United States. An amazing variety. There are so many things that you can grow, but I want you to take, and the biggest advice I have on my like, I think this is like my third worst issue here, is listening to all the advice. You're going to have to learn some things on your own. I completely agree that green onions are really good to grow right now. I think cabbage, all of your broccolis, anything with a really hardy base is going to be good to plant, not plant, but sow right now for your upcoming garden, because we're going to be planting that again sometime in May. And so, again, we need 6 to 8 weeks plus our week of germination in order for, us to have that. But I think lettuces, peas, green onions, that's a really great idea. Cabbages, they can withstand, so again, we never really know what Mother Nature's going to do. And sometimes cabbage, it can withstand freezing temperatures. It can be 80 degrees during the day, and what happens if it dips down at night at like 30? We're going to have some serious root vegetables. So if I was you right now, and in my perspective, if you're going to sow anything at all, it would definitely be your lettuces, it would be your green onions, you're going to do some, you might even be able to do carrots a little bit right now, so long as by the time you plant them, you're not going above 75 degrees. I think 75 degrees is probably going to be like our midpoint at 7A. Because here's the thing, the chemistry of everything, the soil, the water, everything, the time it takes for absorption, all of that changes right about at the degree of 75, between 75 and 78, depending on your humidity level. So I think it's really important that you, take into those things consideration. 2, do some research, sit down and write down in your journal, and again, we will, promise you, we'll get to that one too, but in your journal, write down, what is your weather like right now? Every time you record these things, it's always something to look back on, so you can get that first-hand knowledge when you originally started out on this, and believe me, that knowledge is valuable. Ignorance has its value here, because the truth is that when you're ignorant, and I don't mean stupid, I literally mean not educated on something, you tend to learn them. And when you do, you learn them to your finest. At least in my case, I do. So I think that once you absorb that first year of your journal is so important, folks. This is why I'm going to do a whole episode on it, because not only is it your plan, it was your mindset, it was your failures, it was your exuberations. It was that moment that you bit into a tomato that you grew and stuff just went everywhere because it was so juicy. It's that moment. But you may not realize it the day you write it down. Sometimes you have to look back on those things. So I'm really grateful that I made the choice to do that this last year. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about seeds. And I've already kind of admitted that, well, I could probably use a meeting if you want to be a dick about it. I have a little bit of a problem with my seed collection. It's ginormous, but it's never going to be big enough. And the reason why is because I don't see an end to my current madness. I really love this feeling. I love having this. And you know what? I said earlier that you may not be able to see your sanctuary if it's your first year, but I'm telling you that if you just continue and if you put the effort forward, eventually you'll get to wear makeup, full gown, just be, oh my God, you'll be the rock star of all of your friends and all of your family when you light up your garden at night and have a barbecue, and it's just you. being real and understanding that you have your flaws much like your garden does, but you both learn. And there's where the sunflower is. There's where the magic is. That's where you manifest your future. When you sit up underneath that trellis and you're surrounded by all the fruits and vegetables that you grew and you did it yourself, dude, I'm pretty sure there's not a better feeling. So, in our very next episode, we're going to be talking about seeds. The best seeds, where to get them, why you should get them, where you should get them, and the difference between the stuff you get at the Dollar Tree, heirloom seeds, and stuff you can harvest yourself. Because as I've said, there is no amount of money that will ever be worth the joy and the exuberation you get from not just harvesting your own food, not just feeding your family from the garden that you guys created together, not just from the hardships, everything you've had to learn, the good times, and not just from the first lighting of that garden, but the moment you get to sit up underneath it and that breath I took. And when I realized that I had created all of this from all the madness, away from all the madness that my life had, dude, it was a day I decided that I needed to share this with you, because how often do you get to hear one of your own is actually within sanctuary? It's very difficult. I would really like to see what you guys are trying to sow right now. So if you wouldn't mind, comment below. Tell me, what are you sowing right now? What's your, we've all talked about what your grow zones are, but the truth is in each grow zone, we have things that we can sow right now, and I'd be really interested. It'd be more of a study, I think, research and networking, so that maybe I can spread the word about other zones. It seems really selfish that I only get to do this one, but it's the one I learned, and it's the one I'm trying to adapt to. So adopting is big, but networking is way bigger. So I'd really love to hear from you. Comment below. Let me know what you guys are considering sowing, and what your grow zone distinctly says that you can grow, but is going to be a challenge. I know some of these things may be a challenge for me, and I know from last year and from my failures and my, believe me, I had way more positives than I did failures, but I know within that what I want to do differently this year. And what I really want to do is I want to learn just this. We grow these things in spring, we grow these things in summer, and we grow these things in fall. So now we know what we want to grow here. And what I'm going to sow now, I'm going to do some of my tomatoes. I'm going to do green onions, peas, green beans, cauliflower, radishes. Oh my God, the radishes, the broccoli. I'm actually going to do some kale. And we're going to have an entire, people, it ain't going to be just one or two, but it's going to be an entire episode based on microgreens alone. Because you can grow microgreens 24/7, all day long, all year long, right on your freaking counter. And it doesn't have to cost $25 a salad, because money doesn't buy happiness. Well, buy happiness actually is whereby you find it within yourself. And you can do this here amongst friends, where there's no judgment, no vanity. It's just you and me and this YouTube channel, and a whole lot of acceptance. So I hope you join me for the next episode. We're going to be talking about seeds, where to get them, how to get them, the best on the planet, heirlooms versus hybrids, and we're also going to be talking about how you can get them for nothing. So I hope you join me on the next. If you ding that bell over there, you're going to find out when the next one comes out. So spread the word, like, share, bye. See you later.